Welcome back to another luxury listing specialist episode. This is Michael LaFido. I am Michael LaFido. I'm your host, and I'm really excited about today's guest and today's show because whether you're an agent and you work primarily with buyers or renters even, or you work with sellers, a lot of times we get sign calls, we get internet leads, we get, the fake inquiries, right? Where it's, Daffy Duck, Michael Jordan, whoever putting their name in the lead capture form and fake phone numbers. But a lot of times we do get real phone calls from real people on the other end. And when you take those calls, how do you know if they're legitimate? How do you know if they're serious? How do they know? How do we know they are who they say they are? And so today's show is going to be talking just about that. So before I bring our guest on, a very real scenario that happens to agents consistently is, hey, I got an inquiry online. I get a phone call, maybe a sign call, an internet lead, and they say their name is, Mark Johnson. Hey, I'm Mark Johnson. I'm interested in this property. How do we know who Mark Johnson is? How can we get as much information on Mark Johnson? Maybe he's got a very common name in this instance. You can Google them, you can look them up on social media, but there's so many Mark Johnsons out there. So we're going to talk about that scenario and as well as a couple others with today's guest. Today's guest is Josh Tilleson. He's with a company called Forewarn, Forewarn, forewarn.com. And tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Josh, and then I'll go into kind of why I have you on and why I love Forewarn.
Absolutely. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you having me on. It's an honor and a privilege to be here and talk with you. And so full disclosure, I used to work for Zillow, and so I don't usually want to always admit that. Sometimes that gets people off to the wrong start here, but I never thought I would leave. And then my boss now had an idea, and he basically recruited me to come over and said, hey, he's a data company and they provide this information to other industries that need to know who they're dealing with, right? They need to know who their prospects, who their customers are. So you think of like the banking industry, the insurance industry, industries where by law, they're required to know who they're dealing with. They're not dealing with a criminal. They're not, helping someone to, for example, launder money, right? Through fake bank accounts or things like that. So anyway, the idea was, hey, real estate agents have the same need, but they don't have access to the same information that these other industries like banking, like law enforcement, right? Like these other private investigators, folks like that. So
real quick, Josh, you're talking about, as an agent, you get an inquiry, you have an online lead, you're meeting somebody, or somebody signs in at an open house. Without asking them for their ID, what kind of due diligence can you do based on either a name, first and last name, or maybe just last name if it's unique enough, and or phone number, correct? If you have a phone number or a name, the product, the service that you guys offer can help agents, correct?
Exactly. Yep. It allows you literally within a second, if that's all you know is the name that the person's giving you. They're calling you out of the blue. You're on the phone. You don't know them from Adam. And you're able to, in about a second, through using the Forewarn app, or you can use it from any web browser as well. You're able to search their phone number or their name, and you're able to verify first and foremost, and I think this is probably the most important aspect of it, is that they are who they say they are, right? So just from the start, knowing, is this person being straight with me, with their identity? Because if they're not, then we're off on the wrong foot, right?
Yeah.
If somebody's hiding their name, you can't verify that they are who they say they are, you should have extreme caution, obviously with your time, but also with your resources, your safety, your finances.
We a lot of times as well, Josh, we're in a texting society. So many times I'll get a text randomly from somebody that says, hey, I'm interested in this property, or what can you tell me about this property? Sometimes they leave a name, sometimes they don't, but literally with forewarn, I could take that phone number they texted me on, put it in the app, and it will spit out, so to speak, who that person is. And it also shares criminal records, right? So, if this person is a registered sex offender or whatever it might be, public record, I know exactly who I'm dealing with. And, for both females and males, we're talking safety as well. If you're working in an open
Yeah.
house or looking to meet somebody out at Starbucks to show them houses, I'm a big believer that knowledge is key to convert prospects to clients, but also from a safety and security standpoint. Correct, Josh?
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's huge. I mean, and as I like to say, just good or bad, who is this person, right? And you have the right to know who it is that you're dealing with, who you're engaging with, who you're going to be doing business with, potentially, who you're going to be alone with, potentially. You have the right to know, and you should be able
Who's going to be in your car, potentially?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Literally,
Yep.
I showed a home, a multi-million-dollar property previously, and the agent, the buyer, I thought was a little odd, but in today's day and age, who knows? But the buyer, was Ubered from the airport to this mansion, and then left with the agent in the car. And again, I felt like I did more vetting on this buyer than the agent did. Let me just put it to you that way. And
Yeah.
this is before I was even aware of forewarn. But my point is, if this person had a criminal background, eh, and forewarn provided that agent might not, go in a car with them.
Yeah, exactly. They would say, hey, I can still potentially help this person, but I am going to make sure I'm never going to be alone with them,
Mhm.
right? Because I can't quite verify that they are who they say they are, or because of what I am able to verify about them and say, hey, there's certainly some maybe physical risk, maybe some fraud or financial, concern here. Because that's the other piece of it is obviously, how we got started and the focus here is really about safety, personal safety, right, for agents. But as we do this more and more, we learn that there's fraud. That's another huge concern, right? That you've got people who are trying to pull scams left and right. And now with COVID and doing a lot of virtual, engagements and interactions and even showings now virtually, where you can potentially do an entire transaction without ever really seeing a person face to face, it makes it that much easier for someone who wants to run a scam to potentially pull it off. And so having a resource like Forewarn, where you're able to say, hey, this person's calling me about selling this vacant property that they own, on the water over here or something, expensive piece of land. They're giving me the name of the actual owner according to public records, but are they really that person?
Right.
How do I know? How do I know they are the person that they say they are?
Mhm.
Well, the beauty of our system is you're able to verify that they are that person or not. You'd actually be able to have the resources to actually call the owner, right? So if you're saying, hey, something feels off, he's saying his name is John Doe, and yet I can see John Doe owns this vacant land, but something doesn't seem right. He's not calling from a phone number that ties to John Doe.
Right.
So then you could contact John Doe, with our system and say, hey, I just want to make sure, are you actually selling this property? Because you just called me and I wanted to verify that. And they, again, I'm using this as an example because we've actually had this happen, not just once, multiple times with agents that are customers that are using Forewarn. And they've come to find out that it's somebody who is trying to pull a scam.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of various scenarios that as an agent or a broker that to be able to verify this person is who they say they are, or from a recruiting and a retention standpoint, do I want this person, even, on my team as far as the public, the background check, so to speak, on these folks. So I don't think I asked your official title. You're the CEO, the founder of Forewarn, is that correct?
So my title is Vice President of
Vice
Sales.
President, okay.
Yeah. So and the in our parent company, so if you ever hear this, it's called Red Violet. So we're publicly traded. That company, that entity is traded on the NASDAQ. And so we have a number of different companies or products that we have based on different industries. So Forewarn is our product for the real estate space.
That's great. So, what I like about Forewarn as well is it makes my job easier. And again, I represent some high-end, unique, multi-million-dollar properties. The property behind me there is $7.5 million, Architectural Digest, most beautiful home for sale in Illinois. We get a lot of fake, false inquiries. I've talked to agents that represent other unique properties and the same. So, I look at it as silver platter service. If there's anything I can do, not just for the consumer, but also the other agent, I'm hoping one of the things that came from, this whole pandemic is I'm seeing more agents sharing, and they're not looking at it as my company versus your company, but again, less scarcity and more abundance mindset. And I share that with you, Josh, and I share that with those listening, because if we can all look out for each other, not only from a safety, but a pre-qualification standpoint, the better. I was representing a property that was recently sold for $4.75 million, and we had a buyer inquiry I should say, we got a showing request from a buyer's agent, and we required proof of funds ahead of time. And that agent didn't do their due diligence on their client. The letter was fraudulent. It was a fraudulent pre-approval letter. And this is before I even knew Forewarn, but this is a perfect example. It was a unique enough name on that pre-approval letter that we could have done our due diligence and run it through Forewarn to determine the address, right? Let's just say he says, oh, I'm moving from California. If it's a unique enough name, you guys pull from a database of wherever that unique enough name is from. And if there's no people by that name in California, it's at least a yellow flag, if not a red flag. Is that not correct, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great point. It's a great way that, to your point, because how would you know if they've doctored and created a fake pre-qualification letter? How are you going to know, right, that this is actually not even, that's not even really their real name, and everything they're telling you isn't real because they're trying to pull off some kind of scam. Mm-hmm. So great point. Yes. So to your point, the information that we pull, and you mentioned most of this already, but just to be clear, the beauty of Forewarn is when you get a report, or you run a report on somebody based on their name or their phone number, you're able to verify. So obviously their name, their current address, and their age, but then also you have full address history, full property records, right? So anywhere in the country, all the properties that person's ever owned, which ones they currently own, they'll be listed in the buyer category or section that we have. And so if they're telling you that, hey, I own a house right now in California and I'm moving to the Chicago area, you'd be able to know, hey, this isn't, I can see that, yes, this is true. Yep. It makes sense that I see they own a property in Los Angeles or wherever in California, or I can see that, no, this person's never owned property anywhere in the United States. And so something's off, right? I need to do some more diligence here. I need to do a little bit more digging to see, is this for real? Is this legitimate or not, right? Or is somebody trying to pull a fast one here for whatever reason, right? Whatever their intentions are, you can't necessarily guess that, but you just know if they're giving you fake information, if they're lying to you, then you have to say, hey, I need to take a step back and make sure that I'm dotting every I, crossing every T, and making sure I'm protecting myself, the other agent, the homeowner. If you're the listing agent, you're selling the property. I mean, you obviously have some responsibility. Yep. The safety of the deal, but also of their property and their family. It's like what things that you can do to protect everybody involved in that transaction. And
yeah, so you bring up a couple great points. Again, with our podcast, with this program, with our designation, we're always trying to give agents tools and resources, Josh, and we say this all the time. I believe when an agent grows their knowledge, their confidence will grow. If they're more confident, they'll step outside their comfort zone. I share that with from the standpoint of many agents are looking for that easy button, right? They want that easy button where they can break into or sell more high-end and luxury properties, for example. But Forewarn is actually a great tool. I'm a big believer in the power of demonstration. That's why infomercials are so popular, right? You can literally cut a hole in a boat, put flex tape seal, and drive over shark infested waters. And that's the power of demonstration. Well, in real estate, agents need to be able to demonstrate. So for me as an agent, we have tons, we've written books, we got video books, we show up on the appointment, and we differentiate ourselves through the power of demonstration. And one of the ways Forewarn could be leveraged as well, I think Forewarn could be a great tool to convert a prospect to a client. Let me explain, Josh. If I'm on an appointment and you're the seller and you're a high net worth individual and you have a luxury home and safety and security is something that you're worried about, like, hey, I want to make sure Michael's bringing in qualified people. Well, if I can demonstrate to you in real time, sitting across the kitchen table, say, hey, Josh, what's your cell phone again? Boom, 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 boom. And maybe you do this ahead of time so you make sure there's no red flags there and it's not awkward. But see, Josh, this would be an example of, when a buyer calls me directly, before I call you and you get all excited because there's a showing and you contact your maid and you get the house clean, I'm going to do our due diligence before I even contact you. Of course, we're going to ask for pre-approval. We're going to ask for proof of funds, but we're going to make sure everything lines up. And this is just one of the tools that I use, Josh, to differentiate and make sure that we only bring qualified buyers through your home for safety, security, COVID, fill in the blank reasons.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's definitely, I think it's huge to be able to offer, as a professional, right? As a real estate professional, I think that's what everybody's trying to do, is to demonstrate more value, right? To their customers. And so I think it's awesome. When you're able to say, hey, as a real estate professional, not only am I going to be able to help you sell your home faster, for at the best price possible, but I'm also going to be able to, make sure that, I'm also doing it as efficiently as possible and as safely as possible. And that I've got tools at my disposal that are helping me, protect everybody involved in this process and make sure that, nobody's getting scammed, nobody's being targeted, that homes aren't being, I forget the term, but, we'll have people that are going through houses pretending to be buyers, right?
Casing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
the other thing too that I believe that Forewarn offers, and is conversion. I reference conversion. Many agents are always about leads, but many agents need help with conversion. My point is, if I had an appointment with you in a couple of days and I had your phone number and I looked you up, I Googled you, I looked what your likes, your interests were, maybe where you've lived in the past, I feel like I can build up more rapport with you. If I build more rapport with you, like Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Peace Prize winner, once said, nobody cares how much you know. Excuse me, that was Theodore Roosevelt. He said, nobody cares how much you know until they know you care. But Daniel Kahneman said, people would rather do business with someone they like rather than someone they don't, even if that likable person is offering a lower quality product or service at a higher price. So my point being, if I had a tool like Forewarn and other tools that we use out there, and I understand personality types and what your interests are, I believe my conversion rate will skyrocket, not just with prospects, but also with potential buyers or even agents. So really there's infinite possibilities here with Forewarn. So just to catch everybody up, unless you're, in case you're just chiming in right now, but Forewarn is a great tool and resource. You can go to forewarn.com to find out more. It's really simple. It's $240 for the year if your board doesn't provide it. Main Street Organization of Realtors, which I'm a licensed agent here in Illinois, they provide it free to our members, but some do, some don't. If you're not sure, bring it up to your board and say, hey, have you looked into this? I highly recommend it. I only bring people on or services that I think are a tool or an asset in the tool bench, so to speak, to not only protect agents, but help with conversion and help bring additional, value to the relationship. So literally Forewarn, you get a call, you get a text, you get an online inquiry. You can put their name in this app, literally hit submit, and it'll let you know all those people with the names, and then you figure out based on which one they are. If it's a common name, John Smith, there's a lot of John Smiths, but heck, there's only one of them in your town, and that number matches up. It's John Smith. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the data aggregation, and how do you, without giving away trade secrets, how do you grab the data, and what all are you pulling in to the app?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, what's going on in the back end is pretty amazing. Our technology is called data fusion, and our management team here, they were part of the founders or the inventors, basically, of this technology, tracing back to the late 90s. But what it does is, so we take tens of thousands of sources of data, right? So if you just think about just from like a criminal record standpoint, just that alone is amazing. Or from a property record standpoint, we're pulling from thousands of counties, right? All over the country to pull in these records and attach and say, this record for John Smith in this town belongs to this John Smith in this town, right? This criminal record from maybe, Florida, even though he now lives over here in California, right? So we would attach that and be able to give you that all in your report. So it's kind of the secret sauce or the magic that's happening in the back end, where we're pulling literally billions of records and tying them accurately to the right person. So we have coverage of over 98% of the adult population in the country. So it's very rare that you're going to not be able to find somebody in our system. It's
so when you say country, I got a lot of Canadian friends, and I do these trainings up there with my up in Ontario. Is this something, or that's a different animal at this point? And your number,
good question.
Number lookup doesn't work for Canadian residents yet.
Good question. Yeah, so we don't have data that we're pulling from Canada or from any other country to that point. So, however, when somebody establishes a footprint in the United States, right? So if they establish credit here, they get a cell phone, they start, they rent a place, right? Or something like that, then our system will begin to pull them in, right? Especially if they break the law here, right? Somebody comes into the country, breaks the law, and that's a criminal record that we now have. That's all right. Who do we attach this to? But yes, and if they've never set foot or had any kind of a footprint, so to speak, in the United States, then no, we would not have them in our system.
Okay, good. So forewarn.com, $240 for the year. I highly recommend it. It's a great tool and resource. Whether you be a male or a female, a newer agent or a seasoned veteran agent, broker owners, I also think it's great for you. What other scenario am I missing where some of your top agents are using Forewarn, Josh?
Yeah, I think what you said when you talked about making a good salesperson even better, right? Helping with conversion. What's interesting is that was always a big part of my focus when I was at Zillow, was helping agents to convert more, right? Helping agents to be better, right? Conversion rate, getting 1% more, bumping from a 3% to a 4% conversion rate. That was my, kind of where I focused. And I remember the first time I saw our data, that was my first thought was, wow, this would make every single agent not only safer, but obviously better at what they do, right? At being able to identify people and say, hey, as an agent, you're going to work every lead, right? You're going to help everybody, right? You're out in this job, in this business to make money. So you're going to help everybody, but you may say, look, you may identify as particularly where you say, I'm not only going to call this person back, this lead that came in, right? From my Zillow advertising, my Facebook advertising, from a listing, whatever it is. But this particular one, you're looking at all your leads, you're checking them all out, knowing who you're dealing with. But you might say, this one in particular, I'm going to make sure that not only do I call them back once, leave a voice message and send an email and send a text, but I'm also going to make sure I have a reminder to do it again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Because I'm this one I don't want to give up on, because I can see that, again, this might be your potential customer of a lifetime based on, you see the homes they own, right, where they live. And that's a real life scenario that we've had with customers. Again, it's not the design or intention of our product, but it definitely is one of the side benefits of being able to identify who you're dealing with and say, not only does this person, do I not have any obvious, safety concerns with this person, but they look like they could be the potential dream customer, right? Or customer of a lifetime based on, what I see in terms of properties they own or vehicles that they've owned. And to your point about finding, commonalities, right, with people and being able to make a connection with someone, for example, I'm a car guy, right? I'm a car geek. So I see the Ferrari behind you, right? I think it's an F50, I believe, or an
Speed cost.
Yeah. There you go. Exactly. So, I see that. I see that if, we have vehicle coverage in 37 states, right? So I don't have my map in front of me, but in 37 of the 50 states, we'll show you all the vehicles that have ever been registered with that person's name. And so if you're able to, if the person's in one of those states and you see, oh, I see, a Ferrari F50, in their vehicles, then I know, okay, definitely dealing with, potentially a car guy here. I mean, obviously probably, maybe a high net worth individual, but also somebody who, I can say, hey, this is something we have in common. I had a Ferrari back in the day, or I do,
Sure.
or I aspire to have one day.
Yeah.
So, and just things that you can say, you can maybe potentially weave into the conversation and make a connection. So I do think that there's obviously benefits in being able to just know, like I say, good or bad, who are you dealing with, and just be aware of the positives and the potential risks that could be involved or dangers, right?
Yeah.
To say, hey, again, we're very focused on, not using our product to say you're not going to help somebody, but just saying with this person, maybe I'm just going to make sure that I can help show them properties, but I'm never going to be alone potentially.
That's a great point, Josh. And again, if you're not sure, those that are listening or watching, if you're not sure, check with your broker on this kind of stuff. If you're not sure what you can and can't do, you got fair housing, you got diversity, you got to be consistent with whatever you do. But from a safety standpoint, from a verification, I'm verifying John Smith, who tells me his name's John Smith, is in fact John Smith standpoint. This is an amazing tool to have, and protection-wise as well when you're out showing people properties.
And real quick, just sorry to interrupt, but I think I do want to point. I'm glad you mentioned fair housing, because I think that's actually also one of the benefits of our product that is I often overlooked, is that our product, we built it around, designed the information that we show you as an agent around fair housing. So that you literally, like if you're using our product, it's impossible to discriminate against somebody based on the information that's in our product, right? So we don't show information on any of the protected classes. So where you could potentially, get yourself into hot water if you're looking at, social media and different things, it's like now you have other information, right? Mm-hmm. That you actually could, you have identifiers of protected classes, but with forewarn, you have all this stuff that's really important that will identify if somebody is, pulling a scam or potentially has something nefarious in mind. But there's none of the protected class stuff that's in there. And so you just know it's a safe way to, to verify who you're dealing with without opening yourself up to stuff that you
good to know.
Certainly know.
That's great to know. And again, if you're dealing on a transaction with an agent and you ask questions, how long have you worked with this client? Have you had any transactions with this client? This letter, you have a pre-approval letter, what have you. You can also offer to say, hey, listen, I have access to Forewarn. Are you familiar with Forewarn? And maybe they're not a member of the same organization, or maybe an agent invested the $240 and they don't have it. Well, hey, listen, I'm sure the last thing you want to do is lug somebody around that's not qualified, or better yet, is a threat to you and your family. I'd be happy to, put them in to this app, and that's something that you could do for someone else as well, right?
Yeah. So if you're doing it, if you're right, if you're
for another agent,
right, exactly. Yep. So for helping another agent that says, we hear that, that's honestly something we hear all the time, is that people will say, hey, I'm about to go see someone and I have a bad feeling about this. And somebody says, well, I pay for this product called Forewarn, And so, they're able to help, somebody say, look, let me help you be safe. They're both professionals that do have access, because that is one of the requirements of our system, is that only licensed agents are able to use and see the information. Even though, to your point, you mentioned this earlier, it's all public record for the most part, but it is something that is only available to licensed agents. So
What a great name of a title. What if somebody entered in a landline?
yeah, so we have both. It actually doesn't really matter whether it's a landline or a cell phone.
Okay.
We pull both in. We have coverage of roughly, I'd say, between 90 and 95% of phone numbers in the country. So it's, we have the best phone database in the world, but it will never be 100%.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Just for whatever reason, right? Sometimes if people haven't listed that number with their bank on their mortgage,
Right.
there's a number of things where that, they just haven't, for whatever reason, that particular number was never used. So that's obviously why it's important to be able to search by both phone number or name in our system. But yeah, you'll find as you use our system that 9 times out of 10, you'll be able to verify somebody in a couple seconds from just their phone number. And the cool things is, yeah, it'll pull up not only most of the times them, but it will also sometimes pull up spouses, right, or other family members. So again, if you're dealing with a wife, you might also be able to verify the husband in a couple seconds to see who are both these people, right, that I'm dealing with. Because sadly, we've had some tragedies that have happened where they were couples that were, the husband had a record of bad stuff and they were planning something nefarious. The wife calls to try to lower the concern and make it seem okay, and they have bad things in store or in mind. And with our system, a lot of times you're able to verify not only the one person but also their significant other, their spouse, that if they're linked together in our system. So.
And what if you only had a name? So I looked up, I looked up a name and I got information. Would that provide that person's phone numbers associated with that name?
Yep, exactly. So if somebody had sent you an email, right, for example, and they didn't provide a phone number, and you're trying to verify who this person is, right, you would also be able to. Our system shows you all the phone numbers that we've ever linked to that person, both landlines as well as cell phones. So to this point on the phone numbers, the one thing that can be a little tricky is office lines. So if somebody's calling from an office line, they may have obviously that's never been linked to them in any kind of documents that are associated with that person. They wouldn't put that on their mortgage, right? They wouldn't give their office line to their bank or their credit card or any of those things. So in those cases that, that number may not, if they're calling from a
Sure.
office line, especially if there's a place where there's hundreds of employees that link to the same number.
Yeah.
That might not.
Well, this is a great tool and asset, folks. Check it out, forewarn.com, FOREWARN.com, forewarn.com. Josh Tilleson, great conversation, wealth of knowledge. It's a great tool and a resource. I highly recommend it as an agent, as a broker, that you look into this and check it out, forewarn.com. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate it. Pleasure.
Yeah, you're welcome. If you guys have any questions for me or for Josh, what you want to share? What's the best way for somebody to go to forewarn.com? But what if they have a question about the product or service? Is there a help info or?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's a couple things. So yeah, if you go to forewarn.com, to your point, there's at the bottom of the website, we have phone numbers for both our sales department as well as our support department. So this product is incredibly simple and easy to use, but if you do sign up and you have any questions or trouble, you can always call us. We have real people here that answer the phone. So they're able to help you make sure you get set up and running. But yeah, so their phone numbers are there. Email addresses are there as well. You can always reach out to me. My email address is simply my first name at forewarn.com. So Josh at forewarn.com.
Okay.
So I'm available and then I've got a whole team of folks here that are happy to help you get set up or signed up or answer any questions that you have if you're just thinking about it and you want to kind of get to know the product a little bit better.
Perfect. Appreciate it again, Josh. Again, keep raising the bar in real estate. If you guys have any questions, if you have any suggestions on topics or someone that you think would be a great guest, shoot me an email, michael@marketingluxurygroup.com, michael@marketingluxurygroup.com. And again, if you're committed to increasing your average sale price and you want to differentiate yourself from the competition, I highly recommend you check out luxurylistingspecialist.com, luxurylistingspecialist.com. The LUXE designation requires 0 previous luxury sales requirements. So if you're looking to work smarter, not harder, check out luxurylistingspecialist.com. I'm your host, Michael LaFido. Keep proving others wrong. Have a great day and go make somebody's day. Thanks again.